Hello to all traders and welcome back to another NFP review brought to you by Orbex. My name is David and I'll be taking you through the next NFP to see what the surprise, if there's any surprises in store, and if we can actually see and predict where the dollar is going to be going for the next few months to the end of the year. So thank you very much for joining me. Just go through a quick disclaimer before we get into it. We've also got the chat box open. Thank you, Street Wolves. Talk about pound dollar for the NFP. Yes, absolutely. And keep your questions coming if you have any for the NFP, because it is expected to be quite a tricky one. We've seen indices across the globe collapse over the last 8 hours since the European session's been opening. We've got the Hang Seng falling, the DAX falling, S&P, Nasdaq, Dow all falling quite dramatically. It's quite a big sell-off in the equities market at the moment, so we'll see if the NFP can start having any sort of upside at the moment. Let's just take a quick look at a few slides before we get into the nitty-gritty of the NFP data. As I said, thank you very much for joining me. Chat box is open if you need it. I hope you can hear me well. So analysts expect a slight decrease from the last reading, which was 206,000 down to 175,000. And also we are looking at employment sticking at 4.1%. It was hovering roughly at the mid 3%, 3.5, 3.6. Now it's shot up to 4.1%, which is a little bit worrying because if we do get a bit of a negative reading on the NFP and unemployment data moves higher as well, it's not a good day for the dollar, that's for sure. At the bottom of the screen here, just taking you through the last NFP readings for the last year or so. So, every time just before the holiday period in America, we do get quite a big uptick in new jobs being added. So that's why we had this kind of upbeat sentiment. But since then, as you can see here, really dwelling around the 200,000 area. And again, we are expected not to beat that this time around. So we'll see if that does happen again, and we'll see how that's going to affect the markets as well. So we'll be looking through a basket of the main trading tools, trading instruments, gold, euro, dollar, cable, which we just spoke about as well, as we just go on. So let's just take a look at the final slide just before we get into the charts. And the Fed, as you probably know, on Wednesday did remain fixed. It's still at 22-year high at 5.5% on their rate, but they did indicate that in September they will possibly be moving lower, 25 basis point cut at least, possibly 50 basis points. So we'll see if that's going to have a bit of a dramatic move on the dollar as well. Our inflation has moved finally down to 3%, as you can see here. Finally, I'm saying that because we did get to 3.1% at some point last year and in January, but since then we've crept back up to 3.5%. So are we going to have a break at 3% in the next CPI reading? And also, are we going to have that magical 2% being met by the Fed finally? It seems a long way to go, but it seems that with the Fed not cutting their rates sooner, like the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, and the European Central Bank, they've kind of held on, and they're possibly going to keep on going towards 2%, but we'll see if that comes into fruition. So let's just, I'll share my screen for my MetaTrader platform. And as you can see here, just opened a basket, some of the popular pairs and commodities and indices that we usually look at. And obviously feel free to ask me to look into any other markets, because that's what we'll be doing for the next 20-25 minutes or so until the NFP is released. So let's just take a quick look on gold. As you can see here, we've gone daily chart because I want to stress that we are looking at another record high now. So, we've had tensions in the Middle East. We've had a dovish Fed, not a very good reading from the Fed, to be honest, regarding when they're going to actually cut. All Fed Chair Jerome Powell did say was that if the evidence and the data was good, then they'll consider cutting. However, September is a long way away for us to get a bit more of a clarity on that. So let's just take a look at this then. So we've got a nice top here. So the consensus is another drive to the upside and beating this previous record high, which was at 24.85 approximately. Let's say 24.85 to keep it a bit of a round number. We are now looking to break that and start moving higher. If the consensus is correct, we're looking possibly to go to a new record high, roughly about 24.97. So that will cap us off just shy of 2,500. So we'll see if there's any firm resistance there. We did say the last reading on the NFP that if we got on the weekly chart, this was actually very predictable, because before we actually hit this third record high here, there was an indication that price action would go higher and then we'd get another test. So at the moment, when we look at weekly charts and daily charts, it is obviously a little bit further into the future than minute charts and hourly charts. But it is important when you're trading to see the overall picture of what you're looking at. And this is why I sometimes look at the weekly chart as well. It doesn't really give me too much to read into if I'm day trading. However, as you can see on the weekly chart, we did reach the pinnacle that we thought was going to happen. And at the moment, again, we are looking at 2,500 for the next firm resistance. So another $40 or so, which isn't really that far away. If you think how much gold has jumped in the last 6 to 12 months, it isn't really too much of a big move, $40 to 2,500. So we'll see if that happens. And now Street Wolves will just go straight into cable, because cable was quite interesting the last few days. The Bank of England finally cut their interest rates by 25 basis points. Not too hawkish in that sense. We did think that the Bank of England would cut their interest rate, because they did signal it at the beginning of the year that in the summertime they will make changes to their monetary policy. So let's go on the 4-hour chart. And as you can see here, a very big dive from when we heard the news, which was yesterday, roughly about this time here. So these couple of candlesticks, I'll just zoom in so it's a bit easy to see. This is when we saw the big sell-off on cable, and this is now looking likely that we'll probably see this continuing. Sphere Hope, thank you very much. How many pips is this on cable you're talking about? We're just waiting to see now if that's going to have any big independent move. It was roughly about 100 to 120 pips sell-off in the market for cable, and expect to see something similar if the Fed does start cutting. We saw this on the euro as well, when the European Central Bank did start cutting, and we're making more moves now. So how many pips does the NFP move? Well, you know, on a given NFP, we're looking at 40 to 50 pips that it usually moves the last few times, unless it's a very big surprising shift in the numbers that we're looking at. Mansour, thank you very much for your comment. This webinar is in English only, unfortunately, so please keep your questions coming in English, and I'll be able to answer them as soon as you send them. So just quickly taking a look on cable before we finish. Just want to get into everything before the NFP data is released. 22 minutes to go. So yeah, cable was declining quite rapidly even before the Bank of England did have this decision, and this is because we've had a strong dollar across the board. As you can see here on the pound dollar, we'll go on to euro dollar as well. And we look at the path. If we go onto the 4-hour chart, look at the path of the euro dollar. You know, we've got wave after wave of downside action. We'll just zoom in, it's a bit easier to see. It's looking to lift a little bit now, the euro, just before the NFP data, but will we see these particular peaks? Now, when we see a move downwards for any pair, we look at the recent highs to see if they can be beaten. So what I mean by that is, as you can see here, we've had a drop, and then we've had a consolidation, and then we've had another drop. Then we've had a slight uptick in price action, meaning that prices were hoping to get back to where they were. But as you can see here, we had a big failure on this particular level at the 108.69, 108.70 area. And now we've broken down through that. And again, the same price action is moving. So as you can see here, we had another slight bullish run to the upside, and again, crashing through to that. Tom, how sure can we be that today's NFP won't spike both sides like last time? Well, we can't basically, you know, we have to wait and see what the consensus is. I mean, at the moment, like I said on the charts, also on the presentation, We've got non-farm payrolls, 206,000 previous, so 175,000 is the consensus. If we get a reading of 300,000, then we can have a very bullish dollar. However, if we get a very low reading, let's say 100,000, because the dollar has been strong recently, we can get a bit of a negative dollar, and then it can start spiking back higher across the board. So it might not be too much of a big impact if we get a negative reading on the NFP, because the dollar has been very, very strong in the last few sessions. So I hope that answers your question. And yeah, it's very exciting to see, obviously, you know, trying to predict the market, trying to see what levels we're at, trying to see what information we can gather from the Fed, from, you know, Middle Eastern tensions, fundamentals. It's all gathered in one, and then we try and display it onto the chart to see where our best buy and sell lies. So let's just see what happens in the next just under 20 minutes now. So like I said, you know, we had this bull run, collapse, bull run, very firm rejection, and then we've had another bull run here. So if this particular candle now, or not this particular candle, but if candles and price action does break this particular area here, then we would expect another move higher. So if we break 108.47, 108.48, we can expect another 20 to 30 pip jump, and then possibly another 20 to 30 pip jump towards the 109 area. So this is what we'll be looking out for in the near term. This is not just for the NFP, by the way, this is trading in general. So a little bit like cable on the 4-hour chart. Again, it's a bit more bearish, a bit more of a downturn than euro dollar, as you can see on the euro dollar chart. I'll put these two charts up together so it's a little bit easier to see. As you can see here, there's more of a collapse on cable. It's more of a move lower than a kind of retracement and a rebound. On the euro dollar, we've had this consolidation, slight bullish movement, slight bullish movement. On cable, though, you can't really see much of a bullish movement at all on here. You can see a slight one here, perhaps, but nothing really to say that cable, or, you know, the pound dollar is really going to start moving higher. So just over 15 minutes to go. So keep your questions coming. And Tom, I hope that was insightful. And if you are trading the NFP or any big fundamental news event, just make sure that you obviously have your pending orders firmly in place, take profits and stop losses to make sure that you're not really missing out on anything as well. So let's just quickly look on the Dow, because the Dow has been collapsing quite significantly. And this is mainly due to earnings season. We've had a lot of the big tech companies missing on earnings. We've had Amazon moving lower as well. And we've seen now that possibly with the Dow sliding over 300 points, actually even further now, the S&P falling over 1%, as well as the NASDAQ. We're just seeing now, is the artificial intelligence boom over, or are we going to have, is it just a little bit of a delay in the stock market at the moment? So with Amazon moved 8% lower because it missed its estimates on second quarter revenue and a disappointing forecast. That's quite significant. Amazon does make up one of the big players in the indices. So this is why we've had such a dramatic move on the indices at the moment. And if you just look on the NASDAQ as well, wow, what a move that has been. So if we go back on the daily chart, it wasn't so long ago we were hitting record high after record high. As you can see here, we've had, you know, record high here and then another one. Not too much of a outperformer. And as you can see here now, we're just basically hitting low after low. So we're expecting this V-shaped recovery to the downside to happen. And what that means is at the last swing high or swing low, when we have V-shaped recoveries, we are expecting the NASDAQ to possibly fall, let's say another 500 points, 500 to 600 points at least, and then possibly another move back down to 17,000, which can be quite significant for the NASDAQ itself. So just a quick look on the Dow as well. Just want to bring it on the daily chart. Again, wasn't so long ago we were hitting record high after record high. But as you can see here, really, really collapsing quite significantly to 40,000 now. Every time we get a big psychological number in the market, such as 40,000, 35,000, etc., not just on the Dow, but other instruments, then take that as a firm support or resistance, because once price action does break through these psychological supports or resistance, we can have quite a big turnaround in fortunes. So I had a TV interview, well, a few of them the last few weeks, asking me about the artificial intelligence boom. When are stocks going to slow down? Is it another dot-com bubble from the 2000 era where, you know, all these markets blew up and Nasdaq fell 18% in one day or something like that? The likelihood is we won't have the same kind of reaction in the market as we did back then, but you have to just be careful, because there's only so far that AI stocks can go at the moment. Artificial intelligence is booming, but there is obviously going to always be a barrier on how far a stock is going to start flying, and in doing so, an index as well. And as you can see on the charts, this is what is happening at the moment. So very, very critical information. There's only one more that I want to look at the moment, and that's the dollar yen, because we've had such a collapse on this particular instrument. And if we go back to the monthly chart, we were hitting record highs. You know, we're going back all the way to 2000, and we had a record high just shy of, just above 160. Now, as you can see here, that seems like a long way away, 148. So, you know, over 1,000 pips moving on that particular instrument, and it's really, really damaging to the dollar at the moment. But there was always going to be a pullback. Was it going to be this kind of a pullback? Is it been significant enough? Not really, but you know, as I said, 1,200 pips being wiped off of a currency pair, and this is only in the matter of the 11th of June, so only a couple of weeks, and we are seeing what's going to happen as well. So Tom, thanks for your comment again. Let's see if there's any big spikes in the market. Let me know what you're trading on as well. Obviously the euro dollar is the most favorable currency pair when trading the NFP, but we also like to look at the gold as well. So let me know, you know, the theory that I've got on gold is that we're going to hit another record high. You know, it's only $40 away, and as you can see here, and I got this information from the fact that we are seeing another move to the upside here on the weekly chart. And as I said, it's always good to look at your monthly and weekly charts. You're not, even if you're not trading so far into the future, because it can give you a good predictability of where possibly, a good outlook of where possibly the market is going. Obviously, if we go back to the hourly chart, at the moment, we're just looking at this V-shaped recovery. So not really going too far into the future. But at the moment, as I said, just moving a tiny bit higher, and we'll be seeing if price action is going to start having a bit of a halt here. So let's see if there's any spikes. Let's see if there's any spikes coming, and let's just see, just over 10 minutes now until the NFP. So exciting times, not too long to go. So let's just take into account a few things now. So we've got the Fed possibly going to cut their interest rate in September, possibly twice this year, they've said, before the end of the year. So that'll be quite interesting. We've got the unfortunate Middle Eastern tensions that have been driving gold quite significantly. Obviously, every time there is a big fundamental news impact in the world, be it the pandemic, be it vaccination outlook, anything like that. Obviously, the unfortunate Ukraine-Russia conflict as well. We saw gold spike again and again, and it's spiking again because these tensions are not going away anytime soon. It looks like it's going to be a prolonged conflict in the Middle East, and this is what's probably going to be driving gold. It could be driving oil as well. Oil has, you know, been hit quite significantly, and every time there is you know, tensions in the Middle East, because oil is produced there quite significantly, you know, we've got inputs and outputs of gold as well, that sort of oil as well, that could be quite significant as well. So Glenville, is it a buy or a sell? So are we looking at euro dollar? If yes, then we should see a possible buy if we do get a bit of a subdued dollar, meaning that if we do get a negative reading on the NFP, we could see the euro dollar start moving roughly up to the mid 108 area. So we could actually probably pass that, because if we do get a 40 to 50 pip move, it would take us roughly roughly back to the higher area of the 108 handle. So we'll probably be looking, let's just go into the hourly chart. Just zoom out so it's a bit easier to see. So I'd say, well, let's get rid of most of this data here because it can be a bit confusing when there's too many lines on the chart. So at the moment, 40 to 50 pips is going to take us roughly about here. So that will probably be approximately at the last consolidation, well, the previous consolidation area, about this area here. So we're just waiting to see now. Obviously, the numbers will be a big factor, whether it's a buy or sell. But if we do get a subdued dollar, I would expect price action to move roughly about 20, at least 30 pips. But as I said, 175,000 new jobs expected to be added. We'll see if that's going to happen and how significant that's going to be for the next 6 months as well, going into the new year. So let's just take another quick look on the Dow, because that's what a lot of our traders are trading on at the moment. So the Dow, just looking to see now where we're going to be headed. And as I said, we're in a very, very bullish pattern now for the Dow, just waiting to see if we're going to have more of a sell-off and where that's going to take us. So 40,000 hovering at the moment. If we do get another move to the downside, then we could see obviously a dramatic deeper correction. However, if we do get a turnaround, we are now on this basic trend line here. We are seeing a possible top of roughly just under 40,000. So if it can jump, 700 to 800 points, we'll see if that has any more bearing in the near term as well, for the foreseeable future. So yeah, keep your questions coming. So let's see. So to answer your question, let's see the NFP results, and then we'll make a conclusion. So thank you for your questions, by the way. Keep them coming. Thank you for joining me once again. We're just seeing now that, as I said, the Fed is a real big driver in the market for where we want to be going to. Let's see if there's any updates actually for the next few minutes. So no, nothing at the moment. So still 175,000 new jobs expected to be added, and the unemployment rate is expected to stick at 4.1%. So we're just under 8 minutes to go until the NFP. And obviously keep in mind for the average hourly earnings as well, that could be quite a big factor, and the participation rate as well in the NFP, because it can really be quite significant. Just to bring you some news for next week, we've got the Reserve Bank of Australia's interest rate decision. They're expected to hold. However, that could be a little bit more of a shock to the market. And we've got inflation rate coming out of China and unemployment rate coming out of Canada as well. Not too much to shake the markets next week. This week, we obviously had very big news. The Bank of England interest rate decision, the Federal Reserve interest rate decision, and also the non-farm payrolls as well. So quite a lot of dramatic news this week alone. But we'll see if that's going to have any big bearing. So let's just divide these windows. We're going to take off all these lines because they can get a bit crazy. As I said, any other markets you want me to just quickly check before the NFP comes, please let me know and we will check them. But at the moment, we're just seeing now, as I said, big collapse in the equity market. And this is across the board, across the world, not only in the American markets, but in Asia and Europe as well. So just waiting to see now for the last 5 minutes or so where we're going to be going in the near term. So all these on 30-minute charts. I like to keep them on 30 minutes just to see an overall broader picture of where we're going and if there's going to be any more moves in the market as well. So let's see for the next couple of minutes, just have a quick check on the charts. The only thing I'd like to just express is on gold, and I'll keep going back to gold, but a lot of traders and economists do ask about gold, is that if gold does start collapsing quite significantly, especially on the intraday charts, such as the one we've got at the moment, then we could see a possible break below 2430, and then if that does happen, 2400 round which is roughly about here, will be quite an expected support. So we're just waiting to see if prices do, not today, I mean in the next few sessions, if we do break this particular area of, as I say, a dive of $25 to $26, then expect another move lower, in my opinion. Obviously, from the disclaimer that I showed you at the beginning, this is obviously Orbex's and my opinions, so it's not a guarantee of correctness. We're just looking at the data we're getting and putting it onto the chart to see where we're going in the near term as well. So let's just see how long we've got. So just over 4 minutes, the countdown has begun. Very, very exciting. This is the best time of the month for me. The last few minutes before the NFP, just to see, the markets might start moving before the news headline has been released. So just have to look out for that as well, to see if that's going to have any bearing on where the prices will go. Euro dollar, we've seen this very, very nice move higher in the last couple of sessions. And if you see from where we saw the last swing low, we've moved 50 pips, which is nice because we dived down 50 pips previously. Very, very heavy consolidation here, as you can see on the 30-minute chart, before another spike higher. So we got some indecisiveness here, and then we saw another break higher. Now a lot of traders will be seeing if we're going to have another move, possibly towards the last swing high at the mid 108 handle. So we'll see if that happens, and what kind of moves we'll be expecting in the near term as well. So once we digest the information, the NFP data afterwards, if you are going to trade for the rest of the day or going into next week, just have a look at what the Fed is saying, any signals from them, from any speakers, not only Fed Chair Jerome Powell, but other people on the panel that can shake the market. Obviously, take a look at the Middle Eastern tensions that could start moving gold quite significantly, and oil as well if you're trading these commodities, and just have an overall general view of the market, especially the dollar, because we have had such a strong dollar in the last few sessions as well. So that's been quite significant. So just over 2 minutes to go. I'm doing a 1 minute countdown every time because I don't want us to miss anything. And we're just seeing now where we're going to be going in the near term. So I hope the basket of instruments that I laid out for you were helpful, and we've covered all our bases here. Obviously, these are the main movers when the NFP comes to town, or when we get a NFP reading. These are the main movers that we have: euro dollar, dollar yen, gold, Dow, Nasdaq, S&P, cable. Sometimes get the dollar Canadian, or the loonie as it is also known, if we have Canadian dollar news at the same time, which did happen last time around. They have unemployment data as well, so that's quite an interesting thing to look at. So just under 2 minutes, countdown's begun. We should probably start seeing some market movers soon. So let's bring it back to the tower windows here. And let's get zoomed in so we can see all the big movers in the market. Okay, perfect. So just over 1 minute to go. And as I said, we'll see all the big moves in the market, and we'll digest where we're going to be going and where we can possibly be going for the path of the dollar until the next NFP or the next big news event, which will probably be the CPI data for America, and obviously any Fed decisions before then as well. But keep an eye on the fundamental news events, because you never know when one surprise can start shaking the market quite significantly. So we're just waiting now. Countdown's begun. Roughly just under 1 minute to go. We should start seeing some movement any second now for the news, and I'll just keep you updated as well as the news comes in. So we should start seeing some spikes in the market. Roughly about 20 seconds to go. So just a reminder, NFP data, unemployment rate data from America, and average hourly earnings as well could really start moving. Got non-farm payrolls private as well, but that doesn't really give us too much of a movement in the market. It's the main news coming up. So here we go. We should see some movement now, and there we go. So we can already tell that it's not a good reading for the dollar since we've had a spike on the euro dollar. So non-farm payrolls at 114,000. So wow, what a big miss that is. And unemployment data goes up to 4.3%. Wow. So it's left me a bit speechless, actually. 114,000 new jobs added. So unemployment at 4.3%. Unbelievable, really. So, you know, if we take 175,000 to 114,000, we've got a miss of roughly about 50,000 jobs there. So let's just see the reaction on the market. Naturally, gold has spiked higher because the dollar is so negative at the moment. And as you can see across the board, it means that we won't probably see a Fed cut just yet, especially if the data is not good. So we did see a movement, a prediction. Let's just see what we've done. 40 pips. So like I said at the beginning of the presentation, roughly about 30 to 40 pips is a normal move for the NFP. We might see a slight retracement now, especially on the euro dollar, and we could possibly see start retracing across the board. So let's just see on gold as well. Gold, quite a dramatic move as well. That's moved $17. Wow. So that's moved ever closer to another record high. Let's just go on the weekly chart now. As you can see here, very, very close to another record high here. So just keep an eye on that if that does happen. That's, as I said, that's my prediction. We'll see if it does come true about another move higher. I'm just going to keep that actually on my chart just to remind myself, because I do see that hitting that particular area. But as I said, this is my prediction. Let's just take a look on the indices. Dow and the Nasdaq really, really collapsing at the moment. And let's just get a brief look around the board here. So as I said, when we get a big move in the market like we just have done, we are expecting a slight pullback and not a continuation. So we've hit a top here on the euro dollar of 108.72. And now we're just moving back slightly, about 10 pips from there. Dollar yen seems to be holding its own and starting to collapse even further, which wasn't really too much of a surprise. We are now expecting possibly another move down to this particular last swing high. So we roughly need about another, nothing really, about to 138. So, you know, roughly about another 100 pips, not too much, not too far away from there. Let's just take a look on the other instruments that we've got open. As I said, cable that I was asked at the beginning of the presentation. As you can see here, it spiked 50 pips, but now we're tracing halfway to 25 pips. So that might actually have a full retracement in the next 10, 15 minutes. Don't be surprised if you see that at the moment. And we're just seeing now, as I said, euro dollar holding its own, dollar yen really pushing lower. The yen doesn't really like the dollar in the last few sessions, that's for sure. But most interestingly, just keep an eye on gold. If we do hold roughly about that zone, then we can see possibly another record high happening before the end of this session, possibly. So just keep an eye on that. So that covers this NFP for this time around. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll stay on line for a while longer if you have any questions, anything that you're looking at in the near term. And we're going to see if we're going to have any big surprises as we go into the American session in the evening, to close out the weekend. So when that does, as I said, when it does happen, when we do have big moves in the market, they do have ripple effects until the end of the session. And it looks like there has been quite a big move in the market. So Tom, just to answer your question, is there going to be a spike? Well, there has been quite a big spike across the board. We'll just see now if there's any retracements like on cable. That's actually retracing almost 100% now. But the dollar yen, it doesn't look like it's retracing at all. At least it looks like it's even pushing further. But just keep an eye out for where the support is there. I'll just be considering euro dollar to be moving a bit higher as well. We'll see if that has any indication in the near term. But gold. such an exciting commodity to trade on. And, you know, I've been buying gold for, you know, since the pandemic began, since we had quite a big move in the market. If you go back on the monthly chart, since the pandemic began in 2020. And as you can see here, such a big dramatic move, spikes in the market. And since then, bullish, 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 bullish. Doesn't look like it's slowing down. For me, this is such a big commodity to trade with. But as I said, only use risk capital like in the disclaimer at the beginning of the presentation. You know, trade responsibly, make sure you have your stop loss and take profits in. But as I said, this particular NFP presentation is all about my predictions, and it's not, we don't see it as a source of accurateness. It's just what I look at the market from my many years of trading and seeing fundamentals and technicals to see where we can go next. So thank you very much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll speak again next time on the next NFP. Bye for now.